What's up? Welcome to the first video of Shycher. That's me. Today's video is going to be a what if video from Tim Burton's Corpse Bride 2005. It's called What If Victoria Went with Victor and Emily to Land of the Dead. This is going to be interesting. Let's get started. The events of the story play out the same. The Van Dorts and the Everglots sing their song in the beginning of the movie. They both meet each other. Victor plays the piano. Victoria hears the music. She comes downstairs. They both meet each other. They have that cute moment. Until Miss Everglot interrupts them. We go to the vows scene. Victor messes up his vows, and he messes up a lot more. Pastor Gosworth tells Victor to learn his vows. Everyone gets mad at Victor, but not Victoria. Victor leaves the room. Instead of Victoria staying behind with everyone, she decides to go follow Victor. She walks out without anyone noticing. She starts looking for Victor, but she can't find him anywhere, until she hears her front door slam shut. She assumes that Victor went outside. As she's about to head to her door to head out, she is stopped by her maid, Hildegard. She asks Victoria where she's going. Victoria says to Hildegard she wants to go find Victor, but Hildegard says to Victoria she's not allowed to go outside due to her parents' rules. But Victoria begs Hildegard. She only wants to go find Victor because she sees that Victor is having a hard time. Hildegard still says she can't let Victoria wander off and she can't break her parents' trust. Victoria pleads with Hildegard. This is the first time she's asked Hildegard for something she wants to do for Victor. Hildegard thinks about it. Victoria says she'll be okay and she can take care of herself. She pleads one last time. Hildegard still thinks about it before saying alright to Victoria. She tells her to be careful out there. Victoria smiles. She hugs Hildegard and thanks her. She heads out her door. She walks down the steps and talks to Mayhew. She asks him where Victor went. Mayhew says that Victor went out of town and he's probably heading to the bridge. Victoria thanks Mayhew, as Mayhew says, "You're very welcome, Miss Victoria." She goes off to find Victor. We go to the scene where Victor's on the bridge. He thinks he's a fool to Victoria, but he hears Victoria's voice saying Victor's name. He turns around to see Victoria walking towards him. Victor is surprised to see Victoria here with him. He asks what she's doing here. Victoria says she came here to check on Victor to see if he's okay. Victor says he's fine, he only needs some fresh air to relax himself. He says he's sorry for setting her mother on fire, but Victoria doesn't blame Victor. It may be just a few simple vows for just one wedding. Sometimes she thinks to herself they don't need vows for their wedding. Victor tried to memorize any of his vows, but couldn't memorize none of it. He feels like a complete failure. But Victoria tells Victor he's not a failure. She says she's seen a few people who are sad, depressed, and feel like they can't do nothing right. She will always help them out to make them feel better, to not give up on themselves, to be the best person they want to be. Victoria doesn't want to be anything like her parents. She's a nice woman who cares for people and she loves to help people. She helped 3 people in her life. Victor counts as 4. They both smile. Victor says to Victoria he feels much better and he's happy to see Victoria here with him. Victoria says she's happy to be there with Victor. Victor says things won't get worse until the town's crier makes an announcement about Victor ruining and causing chaos. The two ignore the crier. Victoria asks Victor if they want to be alone in the woods. Victor says, "I would love to." They both hold hands as they walk to the woods. As Victor and Victoria take a stroll in the woods, Victor tries to say his vows right, but still couldn't get it right. But Victoria says, "It's okay, keep on going." As they keep on walking, Victor tries to get it right, but keeps on failing and failing. As Victor is about to give up, Victoria says to Victor to have faith in himself. He pulls into his coat pocket and pulls out a flower and 2 rings. He picks up the flower, he sniffs it, he takes a deep breath as he starts to say his vows perfectly well with no mistakes. He also pretends to talk to Victoria's parents by a tree branch and a log, which made Victoria giggle a little. As Victor's about to finish up his vows, he pulls out the first ring and puts on to Victoria's finger. As he's done, Victoria looks up at Victor and smiles. She says, "You did it." Victor says, "I did it." He picks up Victoria and spins her around as the two laugh of joy. Victor says to Victoria, "I would have done this without you," and thanks her. Victoria says she's proud to be here with Victor. The two smile, and as they're about to kiss, the second ring falls off of Victor's hand. They both look down to see the second ring fall directly on some kind of branch that looks like a hand. As Victor's about to get the second ring, they both look up to see crows chirping very loud. Victoria says to Victor they should head back to her place. Victor says, "Yes, we should. He just needs to get the second ring." But the crows keep on chirping even louder. As they both look up confused, something grabs onto Victor's arm. He looks down to see the branch that has the second ring holding on to Victor's arm. It pulls him down to the ground. As Victoria looks down and terrified, Victor yells out to Victoria to help him. She grabs onto Victor, trying to pull his arm out. She manages to get Victor's arm free. As they both fall to the ground, Victor sees a skeleton hand on his arm. Victoria looks as she's more terrified. Victor gets the skeleton hand off his arm. The ground starts to shake. Victoria yells out, "What's happening?" Victor says, "There's something coming from the ground." The ground cracks as a hand comes out. Victor and Victoria look up to see some kind of bride rising from her grave. They're both shocked and terrified. The bride lifts her veil, revealing her face, as she says two words to Victor, "I do." They both make a run for it. They bump through trees, slipping on ice, getting their clothing torn, and as they manage to get to the bridge, they turn around to see the bride gone. Victoria says, "Where is she?" Victor says, "We must have lost her." The two sigh out relief. Victoria sees the church. She says to Victor they have to get to Pastor Gosworth's church and tell him what they saw. Victor agrees to it. As they're about to head to the church, the corpse bride stands in front of Victor and Victoria. They both get stuck to the corner, nowhere else to go. Victoria says she's scared. Victor says to stay right behind him. The bride leans forward to Victor and says, "You may kiss the bride." Victor and Victoria both faint. They wake up to see corpses surrounding them. They ask Victor if he has a dead brother, and they tell Victoria that she's very soft. They both stand up, as they're both confused and terrified. One of the corpses says, "A doorstep to newlyweds." Victor and Victoria said, "Newlyweds?" The bride says to Victor, he says vows perfectly in the woods. Victor says, "I did?" Victor's eyes go wide. He starts banging his hand on the table, yelling at himself to wake up. Victoria tries to calm him down. Paul the waiter comes through and says he'll be creating their wedding feast. Victoria says, "Our wedding feast?" Paul says, "Not you, their wedding feast." Magus the worm pops out of the bride's eye and says, "Wedding feast, I'm salivating." Victor and Victoria both gasp. The bride puts her eye back on, laughing about maggots. A few corpse women want to touch Victoria, but she's still scared and terrified. She yells out to the corpses to get away from me. Victor grabs Victoria's hand, yelling to the corpses to stay away from her. All the corpses look at Victor and Victoria, as Victor grabs onto a dwarf. He wants questions. The corpse corrects Victor to say answers. He thanks the corpse. "Who are you? Where are we?" Victoria says, "Why have you brought us here?" The bride says it's kind of a long story. Bone Jingles calls out, saying, "A tragic tale of romance, passion, and a murder most foul. This is gonna be good. Ugh. Hit it, boys." The song plays out the same. I wanted to include one scene where the bride spins around Victor. I'm gonna have it be 4 people get spun around. The bride spins around Victor, and Bone Jingles spins around with Victoria. The song's about to come to an end. Victor and Victoria escape. As the song ends, we go back to Land of the Living. The Van Dorts and the Everglots are confused on where Victor and Victoria are. Victor's mom says that Victor is terrified of the dark. Victoria's mom says that she's not allowed to leave outdoors. They hear a knock on the door. Mr. Everglot says to enter. Lord Barkis enters the room. He tells bad news to the parents. The town's crier enters the room as he rings his bell, saying, "Heerging, Heerging, Victor Van Dort and Victoria Everglot were taken by a mystery woman." After he's finished, the parents are confused on why would a mystery woman take Victor and Victoria. Mr. Everglot says, "Fetch me muskets." Mr. Van Dort stops him. He says that the town's crier just had a slow news day. Mr. Everglot says we're one groom short for the wedding tomorrow. Mrs. Everglot says how this is the most scandalous embarrassment for us all. The Van Dorts say they'll find Victor till dawn. Mrs. Everglot agrees and says they're gonna have the entire town search for Victoria. We go back to Land of the Dead. The bride is searching for Victor and Victoria. Maggot says there's something suspicious about Victor and his friend, like they're always together. But the bride doesn't believe him. Victor and Victoria try to hide away from the bride until Maggot spots them running away. The bride follows Victor and Victoria. They both hide in the coffins, pretending to play dead. A black widow spider swings down and talks to Victor. She says how Victor is married and she's a widow. Victor smacks the spider away, and the spider talks to Victoria. She says she loves her dress. Victoria smacks the spider away. As they both run, the spider says, "How rude." The spider says they went that way. They keep on running. They try to tell a corpse that they're not dead, and the corpse that can split himself in half walk by Victor and Victoria, and as he thanks them, they both put their hand on their mouth as they're about to almost throw up, but they hear the bride's voice. They keep on running till they come across a dead end. Victor says to Victoria their only choice is to climb, but Victoria says she can't. Victor asks why. Victoria says she can't climb. She thinks she'll slip and fall, but Victor calms her down. Since she told Victor to have faith in himself, Victor should have faith in Victoria. He tells her she can do it and to trust him. Victoria takes a deep breath as she begins to climb. Once she finally makes it, she tells Victor that she made it. Victor says he's proud. They hear the bride's voice getting closer. Victor begins to climb. Victoria looks to her right as she gasps. When Victor finally makes it, he grabs onto a skeleton leg. He looks up to see the bride above him. She says to Victor, "You could have used the stairs, silly." She helps up Victor. The bride says how the view is beautiful and she's proud that Victor brought his friend here. Victoria is confused when the bride said friend. As the bride, Victor, and Victoria all sit down, Victor tries to tell the bride that him and Victoria have to get home. Victoria says it's very important to them, but the bride says this is their home now. Victor says he doesn't even know the bride's name. She says her name is Emily. Emily says she has a present for both Victor and Victoria. One present is for Victoria, the other present is a wedding present for Victor. They both open their presents to see skeleton parts. As they thank Emily, the skeleton parts start to move. They both drop their presents to the ground as the skeleton parts form into pets. One forms into a dog, the other forms into a cat. Victor recognizes it's his dog Scraps, and Victoria recognizes it's her long-lost cat, Mrs. Fimmins. As they both reunite with their pets, Victor says his mother never approved of Scraps jumping up like this, but she never approved of anything. Victoria says her parents never really liked Miss Fimmins. Only Victoria and Hildegard loved her. When she was a little girl, her parents told Victoria that Miss Fimmins ran away. She was sad for a few days until she got over it. Emily tells Victoria the real truth. She didn't run away. She died of old age and passed away. Victoria is silent for 1 second and says, "Why would her parents lie to her?" Emily asks Victoria if her parents improve of anything. Victoria says to Emily, her parents don't improve. They want things to go well according to plan. Emily says to Victor if his mother will improve of her. Victor says, "You're lucky you never have to meet her." That's when Victor has an idea. As Emily leans down to pet Scraps and Miss Fimmins, Victor gestures to Victoria to play along. Victor says to Emily maybe she should meet his parents. Victoria plays along, saying she should meet her parents as well. Emily says that's a lovely idea. She asks where they're buried. Victor points his finger up. Emily says they're still alive. Scraps and Miss Fimmins start to bark and meow. As Emily listens, she tells them that the only corpse that could take them to land the living is Elder Goodnick. As the three head to Elder Goodnick's library, they meet Elder Goodnick after agreeing with Victor and Victoria and telling him they have to get to land the living. Elder Goodnick agrees to. He squeezes a crow to get an egg out, which made Victoria gasp a little. Elder Goodnick says to the three of them when they want to come back, say hopscotch. He cracks the egg and breaks it, as the spell takes Victor, Victoria, and Emily back to land of the living. Emily says she spent so long in the darkness, she almost forgot how beautiful the moonlight is at night. As Emily dances, Victor and Victoria whisper to each other on his idea. Victor grabs Emily's shoulders and leads her down to sit on a rock. Victor says to wait here. Victoria says it'll be a surprise for her parents to meet her. Victor says they'll be back shortly to not peek. As Emily waits, Victor and Victoria make a run for it. They get to the village, nobody else is around, and when they get to Victoria's house, they feel relief. As Victor's about to knock on the door, Victoria stops him. She hears her father's voice on the other side of the door. Mr. Everglot starts saying if he ever sees Victor again, he'll strangle him with his bare hands for taking Victoria. Miss Everglot says you have to use a rope. As they both hear this, Victoria says to Victor, maybe it's not the best time to see her parents. Victor thinks for 1 second. He asks Victoria where her room is. Victoria says it's upstairs and that's why. Victor says to follow him. We go back to Emily, still waiting on Victor and Victoria. But they're taking too long. Maggot speaks to Emily, saying he still feels very suspicious about Victor and Victoria being together, as if they want to be alone. Emily gets Maggot off her ear and throws him to the snow. Once again, she doesn't believe Maggot's words. Victor and his friend Victoria are only just getting their parents as they said. Why should she believe Maggot anyways? Maggot says you should go ask them. Emily says that she will. Maggot says to follow the trails of footsteps. We go back to Victor and Victoria. They go to the other side of the house. They look up to see the balcony. Victor says we have to climb it, but Victoria says it's too high up, and she thinks she'll fall. But Victor says he won't let that happen, because this time, he'll be right behind her, and they'll both climb together. He'll make sure Victoria won't fall. Victoria smiles and nods her head. Victor gives Victoria a boost up, as she climbs. Victor climbs behind her. As they go up higher, they both see Mr. Everglot through the window, as he yawns and looks at his compass, not noticing Victor and Victoria. He walks off. The two sigh a relief as they continue to climb. In Victoria's room, Helga is just finishing cleaning Victoria's room. After she's done cleaning the windows, she leaves the room, but she forgot to close the window door. Victoria managed to get to the balcony. She says to Victor that she made it. She looks down to see Victor almost there to the balcony, until a drop of water drops down. They both look up, as it starts to rain. Victoria yells out to Victor to hurry. Victor quickly climbs up faster, and as he gets to the balcony, he starts to slip as he's about to fall, until Victoria quickly grabs him. She uses her might to pull up Victor. Victor helps himself up as he gets to the balcony. They both take deep breaths when he finally made it. Victoria sees her window door is open. Victor tells Victoria to quickly get inside. As they both rush inside, Victor closes the window door. Victoria is happy that her and Victor made it home. Victor is glad that they're back and his plan had worked. Victoria and Victor sat down by the fire, as the both cold as death and wet. Victoria doesn't know how they're gonna tell their parents what they experienced and went through, and since her parents are mad at Victor, she thinks it's best for the two of them to stay up here in the room. But Victor has an idea. He tells Victoria they're gonna stay up here, rest, wait till morning, and they'll head out her room and tell their parents everything, and they'll do it together. Victoria smiles and says that's a great idea. As they both hold hands, Victor and Victoria stand up, as they're about to head to Victoria's bed. But before they could, Victor gasps as he sees Emily climb up the balcony. Victoria asks what's wrong. The back door window opens as wind blows in her room. Emily lifts her veil to see Victor and Victoria holding hands. Emily asks Victor what's going on. Victor tries to say something, but Victoria steps up and tells Emily he's not married to you. Maggot says he was right the whole time. Emily gets mad and says hopscotch. She drags the two of them back to the land of the dead and back to Elder Goodnick's library. Emily pushes Victor and yells at him, saying he lied to her and Victoria is not just a friend and she's the other woman. Victoria has enough and argues with Emily. She tells her the whole wedding wasn't for you, the vows weren't for you, they were meant for her and Victor. She tells her the truth that Victor went out feeling depressed and alone, and she went out to find Victor and wanted to go comfort him and make him feel better. And when he said his vows to Victoria, Emily came out her grave and kidnapped them, bringing them to a place they don't want to be in. Emily argues back. She tells Victoria she made a vow to herself if anyone, whoever finds her, that person will become her husband. She has been buried in her grave covered in darkness until she heard Victor's voice and said his vows. She also heard Victoria's voice too, and wasn't expecting to hear someone else with Victor. When she came out her grave, she wanted to take Victor, but she decided to take both of them instead, because she thought Victoria was just a friend to Victor. But it turns out they're not just actually just friends. Emily says to Victoria that Victor loves her instead of you. The two argue with each other, as Victor tries to calm them down. Emily starts to cry, as she says she thought things were going so well, but it's not. Her eye falls to the ground and rolls over to Victor's shoe. Elder Gunnick says to Victor she's got a point. Victor picks up the eye and gives it back to Emily. He says this can't work out. Emily asks why. Is it her eye? Victor says it's not her eye. He says to Emily that this whole thing is a misunderstanding, and Victoria is right. The wedding was only meant for him and Victoria. He ran away to get to the bridge after he messed up, but Victoria came to him and comforted him, as he felt better and happy. He tells Emily under different circumstances, well, who knows? They're just too different. Victor says to Emily she's dead. Emily says to Victor he should have thought about that before he asked her to marry him. Victor tries to tell Emily again that he will never marry a corpse. Emily doesn't say a word, as all three of them stop talking. Emily, feeling heartbroken, she walks out the library as Scratch follows her. Victoria walks towards Victor. They don't say a word as they watch Emily leave. Victoria asks Elder Gunnick if he can get another egg from another Krog, but unfortunately, the crows can't lay their eggs for 6 days. Victoria says they can't wait 6 days, and the wedding is tomorrow. Victor says it's very important to them, but Elder Gunnick apologizes and says that's the way things work here. Victoria starts to tear. She is sad for her dreams being crushed. Victor puts his hands on Victoria's shoulders as he comforts her. He asks Elder Gunnick if there's a place they can relax. Elder Gunnick says they can relax by the coffins and rest there. Victor thanks Elder Gunnick. They both head out the library as Miss Fimmons follows them. We go to Emily, as the scene plays out mostly the same. The song, the emotions, everything stays the same. We go to Victor and Victoria. They relax by the coffins. Victoria, still feeling sad, she says to Victor this was her fault. If she had never said to Victor they want to be alone in the woods, they wouldn't have been to this place. But Victor says, it's not your fault. None wasn't your fault. Victor says it was his fault for leaving the house. He couldn't face any more consequences, so he just left. He was the reason they're both stuck here. He apologizes to Victoria for everything and says he can't do nothing right in his life. The only thing he's good at is drawing, and that's all he can do. As Victor is done talking, she says to Victor that he did do something right. Victor looks at Victoria. She explains when they first got here, when they were running away from Emily, they head to a dead end. Victor told her to climb, but she was afraid that she'll slip and fall. But Victor told her she can do it, and to trust him. And she managed to make it. Even doing the same thing when they were at her house, climbing up her balcony, and even telling their parents what they'd been through. But that was all ruined when Emily took them back. After all this, Victor did do something right, and they're still together. They both smile. Miss Fimmons jumps on Victoria's lap. The two laugh as they pet Miss Fimmons. Victor wanted to tell Victoria something. She looks at Victor as she listens. Victor confesses his feelings to Victoria. He tells her he was terrified of marriage, But meeting Victoria, he felt he should be with her always, and the wedding will not come soon enough. Victoria, surprised to hear all of this, she says she feels the same. The two smile as Victoria clings to Victor. They'll close their eyes as they fall asleep. We go back to land of the living. The whole town is still searching for Victoria, but with no luck. In the Everglades house, Mr. and Mrs. Everglade are getting stressed out about Victoria's disappearance. The wedding cannot continue without their daughter. Mr. Everglade shouts, saying he'll strangle Victor for this if Victoria doesn't return soon. They hear a knock on the door. They go to open it, expecting to be Victoria, but it's Pastor Godsworth. He tells bad news to parents. He says, since Victoria and Victor have not returned, he will have no choice but to cancel the wedding. The Everglades gasp. Mrs. Everglade begs and pleads with Pastor Godsworth to give them more time. But Pastor Godsworth says there's no chance. Without Victor and Victoria, there's no wedding. He gives them a good night as he walks off. The Everglades close their door as they're filled with rage. They blame Victor for all of this. They call him a disgrace, a disappointment, and embarrassment. Mr. Everglade shouts, saying Victor will pay for ruining everything. Miss Everglade says that Victoria is in big trouble for disobeying house orders, and it'll be years before they can show themselves in public again. That's when they hear Lord Barkis' voice as he enters in on them. Lord Barkis says how a young boy like Victor will take Victoria far away from here. If he had a woman in his arms, he would lavish her with riches, benevolence, and loyalty. He explains that he's not married. He was betrothed some years ago, but tragedies snatched his young bride away. But their money is still safe. Mr. Everglade says they don't have any money. Lord Barkis is shocked and says, "What?" The Everglades explain that they ran out of money years ago, and the only way to save their house is for Victoria to get married, but it's all ruined thanks to Victor, and they'll be forced to live in the streets. Lord Barkis is mad to hear this, but keeps it to himself. He tells the Everglades he's sorry for the money all gone, he's sorry for Victoria's disappearance, and gives them a good night. The Everglades nod as they go upstairs to head to bed. Lord Barkis waits for them as he hears their door close. He goes upstairs and heads to the hallway with pictures. Lord Barkis is mad that the Everglades never had money to begin with. He'll be broke with no jewels to steal. All the women he murdered in the past had jewels and money, but not the Everglades. He puts his hand on a picture of Victoria and says if Victoria does manage to come back soon, he'll rather just take Victoria instead, and will possibly kill her if Victoria disobeyed him. But if she doesn't return, then he'll just leave town and continuing his murdering spree. He walks through the hallways as he laughs to himself. In another room, Hildegard hears all about Lord Barkis' evil plan. She has to warn the Everglades about Lord Barkis, but before she could, her heart begins to beat faster as she's having a heart attack. She tries to get to her medicine, but it's too late. Hildegard lays dead on the floor. We go to the Van Dorts, still looking for Victor. The town's crier makes an announcement that the wedding has been cancelled. The Van Dorts are stunned to hear this. Knowing that it's too late, they still have to find Victor. Mayhew starts coughing. Mrs. Van Dort yells at him to silence that blasted coughing, but Mayhew can't take it. He falls out the buggy and gets run over. Mayhew dies on the ground. We go back to Land of the Dead. Scraps sees Victor and Victoria sleeping. Scraps walks towards Victor and licks his hand. Victor wakes up and sees his dog, Scraps. He sees Victoria still sleeping. He looks at Scraps and asks him, "Where's Emily?" Scraps gestures Victor to follow him. Victor quietly stands up, not making a sound, as he lets Victoria sleep. He follows Scraps. Scraps shows Victor that Emily is in this room. Victor steps inside. He sees Emily playing the piano. He tries to apologize to Emily. The scene plays out with Victor and Emily playing the piano. Victoria wakes up from the sound of music. She sees that Victor is not here. She sees Miss Fimmons and asks her, "Where's Victor?" Mrs. Fimmons gestures Victoria to follow her. She follows Miss Fimmons. Miss Fimmons shows her that Victor is in this room. Victoria peeks inside as she sees Victor and Emily playing the piano. She gasps as she sees the two of them are having a good time. Victoria starts thinking to herself if Victor does love Emily. Emily's skeleton hand comes out, playing the piano and crawling on Victor's arm. The two laugh as Victor puts Emily's skeleton hand back on her. Victoria looks at Miss Fimmons and says, "Maybe Victor does love Emily instead of me." Feeling heartbroken, she starts to walk away until they hear the bells ringing. All the corpses come out shouting, "New arrivals, new arrivals." As the corpses greet the new arrivals, Victor recognizes Mayhew and runs to see him. Victoria recognizes Hildegard. Surprised and happy, she runs to see her. Victor gets closer to Mayhew and sees that he's dead. Victoria gets closer to Hildegard. Hildegard turns around as Victoria sees that her skin is entirely blue. She gasps as she puts her hand to her mouth, shocked to see Hildegard dead. Hildegard is happy to see Victoria and says, "This is where I've been the whole time." We go back to Victor, saying he's sorry to Mayhew, but Mayhew says he feels great. He takes a deep breath. We go back to Victoria. She says she's sorry for Hildegard, but Hildegard says she feels absolutely better. She doesn't feel any pain in her back no more. She feels better than ever. We go back to Victor. He tells Mayhew what's going on back home. Mayhew says before he died, his parents were still searching for him, and the whole town was searching for Victoria. He said he overheard the town's crier saying that the wedding has been cancelled. Victor is stunned to hear this. Mayhew also guesses that the cake has been wasted. Victor says he messed up, but Mayhew says, "Don't look down yourself. Things will get better soon." Victor smiles at Mayhew. He also says that Victoria is here too. Mayhew is surprised and asks, "Where is she?" Victor looks around and spots her talking to Hildegard. Mayhew sees her and her maid. He says to Victor that her maid is here too. We go back to Victoria. Hildegard tells Victoria bad news. She says that her wedding has been cancelled. Victoria is stunned to hear this. She also tells her something worse. She says that Lord Barkis is not just a man, but a monster. He killed multiple women and stole their jewels and money. She tells her if she returns home, Lord Barkis will take her and kill her because he learned that her parents never had money. Victoria says she hopes her parents are alright. Hildegard says to Victoria if she stays here for a while, Lord Barkis won't find her and will leave town. Hildegard sees Victor and Mayhew. She knows that Victor is here too. Emily walks towards Victor and Mayhew as Victor introduces Emily to Mayhew. Hildegard asks Victoria, "Who is the bride woman?" Victoria says to Hildegard her name is Emily and she thinks she's married to Victor. Hildegard says she thinks. Victoria turns her head down and says, "I believe so." Hildegard sees Victoria is sad. She asks, "What's wrong, my dear?" Victoria turns her head to see Victor, Emily, and Mayhew talking and laughing. Victoria says maybe Victor doesn't love me and loves Emily. She removes the ring that Victor put on her and says that we were never meant to be. She drops the ring to the floor as it rolls towards Victor's shoe. Victor looks down to see the ring. He picks it up and realizes this is the first ring he put on Victoria. He looks to see Victoria walking away with Hildegard and Miss Fimmons. He tries to get to Victoria, but a few corpses are in his way. He sees Victoria walking to another place. Victor looks at the ring on his hand and realizes he messed up again as he puts his hand to his head. Emily says to Victor, "What's wrong?" She's about to walk towards Victor until Elder Goodnick calls out to Emily. He has to tell her something. They both walk into a room. Victor turns his head and wants to hear what's going on. He peeks inside the room as he sees Elder Goodnick talking to Emily. Elder Goodnick says there was a conversation with her marriage. The vows are bending only until death do you part. Death has already parted her. Emily gasps, saying if Victor finds out, he'll leave and take Victoria with him. Emily says there must be something he can do. Elder Goodnick says there's only one way. It requires the greatest sacrifice. Maggie says we have to kill him. Victor gasps as he hears this. Elder Goodnick says Victor will have to give up his life forever and repeat his vows in land of the living and drink from the wine of ages. And with Victoria here, Victor will have to choose if he wants to be with Emily or Victoria. Emily gets on her knees and says she doesn't know what to do. Victor takes a deep breath and walks into the room. Emily looks up at Victor. Victor says to Emily he's sorry for her. He's sorry for her death. He's sorry that she waited so long for someone to find her. He's sorry for everything that happened to her. He tells Emily that she's a great woman, a great bride, and she has a lot of great friends here. But the real truth is, Victor is in love with Victoria. Victoria is a great and lovely woman to him. When Victor is at his lowest point, Victoria came to him and picked him right back up, and she tells Victor not to give up and to be the best person he can be. And since then, Victor felt like he can do things right again. And since Victoria helped him, Victor helped her. They've grown so close together, and the relationship has worked out great for them. Emily starts thinking for a moment. Then, something hits her in the back of her head. Victor says he can't drink the poison. Instead, he wants to find Victoria and make things right for her. As he's about to leave to find Victoria, Emily stops him. She tells him to wait for a moment. She has to tell him something. Victor listens to Emily. Emily says she finally understands about their marriage. She was stuck in her grave for years, but when Victor said his vows, she was finally free. But the real truth is, she was a bride. Her dreams were taken away from her. Now she feels like she's still in someone else's marriage. Emily does love Victor, but you're not mine. She pulls out the ring off her skeleton finger and gives it back to Victor. He looks down to see 2 rings on his hand. Emily tells Victor to go to her and make things right for Victoria. Victor smiles at Emily and goes off to find Victoria. We go to Victoria, still with Hildegard and Miss Fimmons. Victor managed to find her. Victor says he wants to tell Victoria something. Hildegard says to Victor that Victoria is in the mood. But Victor says there's no time for that. He only wants to talk to Victoria. Victoria listens to Victor. Victor apologizes to Victoria. He was only playing the piano with Emily just to cheer her up and make her feel better. But it wasn't in an act of love. He knows he messed up again, but he wants to fix it for the both of them. Victoria looks at Victor. Then Emily walks in on the 2 of them. Victoria looks at Emily. Emily talks to Victoria. She says she's sorry for the whole misunderstanding and she finally understands about their marriage. She gave the ring back to Victor so that he can be with Victoria. Victoria looks at Victor. Victor says he messed up a lot of things for being terrified of marriage. But now he's done being scared and done messing up things. Victor says he cares about Victoria so much. He wants to be with her for the rest of his life, and he really loves her so much. Victoria, filled with happiness as her heart warms up. All the corpses watch Victor and Victoria. As Victor gets on one knee, he grabs one ring and proposes to Victoria. He says, Victoria Everglot, will you marry me? All the corpses gasp. Victoria puts her hand to her mouth. She feels her dreams coming true. She is happy to hear all these words from Victor. Victoria says to Victor, I do. The two hug as all the corpses clap and cheer for Victor and Victoria. Helgod and Mayhew clap too. Scraps and Miss Fimmons give a bark and meow. Emily claps for them too. Maggot starts to cry as Emily comforts him. Victor makes an announcement to all the corpses. With Victoria and Emily by his side, he says to all the corpses they'll be taking him and Victoria's wedding upstairs. The wedding song continues. Emily will take Victoria to the dressing room. She tells Victoria she can't marry Victor dressed like this, and she has a dress for her. Emily, Hildegard, Miss Fimmons, and a few corpse women take Victoria to the dressing room. The Black Widow Spider says to Victor he can't marry Victoria looking like that. She calls the rest of the spiders. The spiders fix Victor's coat, and as they're all done, Victor is looking nice and sharp as he's ready for his wedding and ready to marry Victoria. We go to the dressing room as the corpse women clean up Victoria, brushing her hair, giving her makeup, and giving her new dress. In the middle of the song, they're about to reveal the bride. Emily with Victoria behind her as they both walk down the steps. Emily moves to the side, revealing Victoria wearing a beautiful white wedding dress and holding blue flowers. She smiles at Victor. She looks nice and beautiful, and she's ready to marry Victor. Victor is excited for their wedding. The song comes to an end. We go back to Land of the Living. At the Everglot's house, they bring all the civilians to an announcement meeting. The Van Dorts return to the Everglot's house. They said they've been searching for Victor for hours. And what's even worse, Mayhew is missing too, and he's abandoned his post. Mr. Everglot explains that Mayhew wasn't sitting in his buggy, and he took control of the horse and buggy and made it back home safely. Miss Everglot says they're facing problems of their own. Not only they can't find Victoria, but Hildegard is missing too. Mr. Everglot is mad while eating his soup. Miss Everglot says to all the civilians that the day was supposed to be Victoria's wedding day, but it's all ruined thanks to Victor. They can't give up their search for Victoria. She's only 19. She must be found. The Van Dorts will search for Victor themselves. Victoria's day was supposed to be their only chance to keep their house, and now it's all gone to a waste. That's when Lord Barkis enters the meeting. He wants to make an announcement for himself. Miss Everglot agrees and lets him speak. Lord Barkis clears his throat. He says to civilians how it's sad that Miss Victoria is gone and her wedding day is ruined. Victor Van Dort is a coward for abandoning this wedding. He hopes for the best for Victoria. If she does come back, he'll be the one to marry her and give her the life she wanted. That's when the fire turns green, as the whole room turns green. Nobody says a word, and the corpses come out of the shadows. Everyone stood still, but they're terrified. Bone Jingle's eye falls into the soup. Mr. Everglot says, "There's an eye in the soup." Everyone begins to scream and run. The Van Dorts and the Everglots hide. Lord Barkis hides under the table. As everyone thinks they're all doomed, one little boy walks out to a corpse and says one word, "Grandpa?" The living and dead all get along. We go back to the Everglot's house. The whole room is a mess. The Van Dorts and the Everglots come out of hiding as they meet Hildegard and Mayhew. The four parents are shocked to see them dead. Mayhew talks to the Van Dorts and says it's good to see them again, and tonight is going to be the best night. Hildegard talks to the Everglots and has to tell them something very important. She says that Lord Barkis is a killer and he kills women and steals jewels and money. And since he learned that the Everglots had no money, he wants to take Victoria and kill her. The Everglots are shocked to hear this. They thought they trusted him. After Hildegard tells them this, she tells the parents They have to get to the church. Victor and Victoria are getting married. Knowing that Victor and Victoria are still around, they head to the church. Lord Barkis gets out on the table. He watches the four parents leaving. Curious, he follows them. The living dead are heading to the church. Pastor Godsword yells to the demons to go back to hell until one corpse says, "Keep it down, we're in a church." We go to the church as wedding music plays. Everyone sees Victoria. As Victoria walks on the carpet, smiling, Victor smiles too, including Emily. Victoria gets to the front of the stage. As Victor and Victoria turn to face Elder Goodnick. Elder Goodnick also brought his wine poison, but it's not for Victor and Victoria. He brought it in case he starts coughing. As Elder Goodnick begins the wedding speech, the Van Dorts and the Everglots enter the back of the church. They see Victor and Victoria on the stage. Victor's parents see that Victor is looking nice and sharp. They question themselves if Victor is about to marry Victoria until a corpse shushes them. Victoria's parents see Victoria. They question themselves how did Victoria get that dress, and they want to know where she has been, until a skeleton corpse shushes them too. The Everglots stop talking. Elder Goodnick says to Victor and Victoria to say their vows. Victor goes first. He says his vows perfectly well. He puts the first ring onto Victoria's finger. After he's finished with his vows, Elder Goodnick says to Victoria, "Now you, my dear." Victoria smiles as she says her vows so perfectly well. She puts a second ring onto Victor's finger. When she's done, Elder Goodnick says, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Victor and Victoria kiss, as the living and dead clap and cheer. Miss Fimmins and Scraps give a bark and meow. Hildegard and Mayhew clap too. Hildegard cries and blows her nose with a tissue. The Van Dorts clap for them too. The Everglots look at themselves in confusion, but they clap anyways. Emily claps as well. She's proud of Victor and Victoria, and she's proud of Victor for making things right for Victoria. Once Victor and Victoria are done kissing, Victor says to Victoria, "We're together." Victoria says to Victor, "And forever." The two smile. That's when Lord Barkis enters the church, interrupting the ceremony. He says he's glad that Victor and Victoria have returned and finally married. As he gets to the stage, he says, but there's one thing in mind. He grabs Victoria's arm, pulling her towards him. He yells, saying he wants Victoria for himself. Since the Everglots don't have any money, he'll just take Victoria a place far away from here. The Everglots yell at Lord Barkis, telling him to leave their daughter alone. The Van Dorts do the same, telling Lord Barkis to leave her alone and she just married Victor. Lord Barkis will recognize Emily because they will know each other. We learn that it was Lord Barkis that killed Emily and stole her money and took her dreams away. Lord Barkis grabs a sword from a corpse and puts it to Victoria's throat. He says he'll be living with Victoria and go to a place away from here. Victor stands up to Lord Barkis and says, "Take your hands off my wife." Lord Barkis points the sword at Victor and says, "Do I have to kill you too?" That's when Miss Fimmins jumps on Lord Barkis' face, hissing and scratching, while Scraps bites on his leg. Victoria is able to escape as she runs towards Emily to safety. Lord Barkis gets rid of Scraps and Miss Fimmins off him. A corpse throws a fork to Victor to defend himself. Victor fights Lord Barkis. Victor's parents tell their son to not give up. The Everglots watch the fight. Lord Barkis gets the upper hand and is about to kill Victor. Victoria yells out, "No!" Emily steps in and takes the blade. Everyone gasps as Emily pulls out the sword and points at Lord Barkis. She tells him to get out. Lord Barkis says the same lines, "Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and can her heart still break once it stopped beating?" He drinks the poison and dies. The corpse take him to land of the dead, saying one last word, "New arrival." After all that is over, Victoria says to Victor, "That was so brave of you, Victor. Victor says to Victoria, "I'll never let anything happen to you." Victor's parents walk towards them, saying they're proud of him. The Everglades walk towards Victoria. Miss Everglades says that Victoria is in big trouble for leaving the house yesterday. Mr. Everglades says to Victor he still wants to strangle him for taking their daughter. Victoria stands up to her parents. She says she doesn't care that she's in trouble. She wanted to find Victor to get his spirits back up. She doesn't want to be anything like her parents. She loves to help people by getting their spirits back up. Victor also stands up to the Everglades, saying how he managed to make things right for the both of them, and he loves Victoria so much and wants to spend the rest of his life with her. Emily does the same, saying to the Everglades they just got married and they should respect their marriage. The Everglades stop talking for 1 second, until they finally come to understanding. Mr. Everglades apologizes to Victoria and Victor. Miss Everglades apologizes and says that Victoria is a grown woman and she's allowed to do whatever she wants with her life. Victoria thanks her parents. The Van Dorts recognize Scraps, and the Everglades recognize Miss Fimmins. Shocked to see Miss Fimmins, she hisses at them. The Everglades take a step back. Victor's mother says to Victor she's sorry for not improving anything. Now she improves in Victor and Scraps. Victor thanks his mother. Huddle God hugs Victoria, and Mayhew gives Victor a pat on the back, saying their final goodbyes. Scraps, Miss Fimmins, Huddle God, and Mayhew go back to Land of the Dead. Victoria says to Emily she's sorry for the argument they had. Emily says she's the one that's sorry for not understanding. Victoria thanks Emily for saving Victor. Emily says she's happy to do so. Emily talks to Victor. She thanks him for setting her free. Victor says he's happy to do so. Emily holds a small flower and says she'll keep this small flower to remember her friends. She hugs Victor and Victoria. Emily starts walking out of the church. She turns her head to see Victor, Victoria, the Van Dorts, and the Everglades looking at her. She throws the flowers to an old woman. She sees maggots on her shoulders. She gets startled, and she throws the flowers to Victoria. Victor and Victoria smile. Emily gives one more smile to her friends. She walks out of the church, turning to blue butterflies flying to the sky. Victor and Victoria look up to see butterflies in the sky. They both look at each other and smile as they give their final kiss. The end. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think of this video. This is Skycher, my first ever video, and I'll see you guys next time.